Hey all, Eskie here, your favorite Kelvin doppelganger, bringing you another Deadlock replay review. So in this replay, we're watching Lystic's Grey Talon. Lystic is a pretty popular content creator in Deadlock and plays on one of the tournament teams. I believe they've won a lot of tournaments at this point, a Eternus ranked player, so definitely very good. See what we can learn from him. So 7 pops his static charge on him, immediately gets a light melee off on him as well. He's down about 200 health, so he does have to be careful here. 7 is full, although... 7 kind of assumed he was going to punch there, I guess, and decided to pre-parry him. And when you do that, obviously you're opening yourself up to a heavy melee there. Lystic did land a heavy melee, so they're both pretty even in health right now. Lystic has the advantage because he has a creep wave up at his tower, or his guardian, sorry. And yeah, so he's just going to back off now. And if you see, he's actually targeting the healing minion there. And I think that's a good practice overall, especially if you've put a lot of damage on your opponent, is focusing the healing trooper down first prevents them from getting too much healing and regen from that trooper. That way you can kind of keep their health low and keep your priority in lane. This looks like 7 is going to buy. He does have 500. Lystic doesn't have 500 yet, although I'm pretty sure he just got it with that creep. 7 going in hard. Lystic hits a big 1 there. 7 pops a static charge on him. Does get his stun off. Okay, Lystic gets this kill surely. Oh, he missed. Oh, wow. Man, that sucks for him. He just missed all of his shots there. He probably should have had that 7 kill. 7 gets him with the ball lightning, though. And yeah, so after you die like that in lane, one of the things you're going to want to do is just kind of take a mental note of, hey, 7 has 1.2k, I have 600, so he's probably at least an item up on me at this point. The one thing that Lystic does have the advantage with right now, and he's using it, is that 7 hasn't really healed from the damage he put on him originally, so Lystic does actually still have priority in this lane, where he can push and put pressure on 7, because 7 hasn't healed the damage he put on him before he died the first time. So Lystic is going to go get an item here. I think that's really smart because 7's up at least 2 items at this point. 3 items now, so now he's only down 2 items. Sorry about the perspective there. It always is weird when I tab and look at items and stuff. Big 1 damage right there. And let's see what he's gotten first here. So the first thing he did get was his first point in rain of arrows for that cooldown reduction. And yeah, going to just keep putting pressure on this 7 here. 7's actually pretty low health right there. So a 1 and maybe a shot or 2 could probably kill the 7. So the 7 has to be very careful with when he chooses to peek. And yeah, so Lystic's just holding the angle on him here. I think, yeah, 7 probably goes up to the roof at this point. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but for this lane in particular, and I think it works for the other lane, the other side lane as well, is if you're low and you're on this side, you can go up top and get an angle to where it makes it a lot harder for the opponent to harass you. So if you're low on health and you want to not be sitting behind those barrels by the shop, for example, that is a good angle to take to try to keep the opponent's harassment off you while still being able to last hit. So Lystic is going to go by here. And I think setting buy breakpoints in your head, especially early in lane, is a good thing too. Ideally, what you want to happen when you're going to buy in lane is you're going to want to push into their guardian so that your wave is on their guardian and then go buy. That way you don't lose as many minions as you would if, say, the creep waves were fighting each other.
This is the perfect spot.
Because when the troopers are up there on the guardian, generally speaking, most of the time, not all the time, they're going to be hitting the guardian and not the other troopers because of the way the enemy's troopers drop down. So that way you're not losing as many. So that's the ideal time that you want to go by. And ideally when you have, let's say like 1,000 or 1,500, that way you can get at least 2 items. So rolling over here for a gank. Paradox is full health here. Pocket is nowhere to be found. He's going to go for this Paradox gank though. Get some shots on him there. And yeah, Paradox is just going to pop the wall, and there's not really anything he can do about that. And yeah, so as he rotates over here, a few items. Hollow Point Ward was the first item he went. I think that's really good on Grey Talon. Obviously, it gives you spirit damage and weapon damage, which you're going to be using a lot in the early game. High Velocity Mags, just for those easier to hit shots, and then extra spirit for that extra damage on your 1. And yeah, if you notice, he's not battling the 7 too much. Oh, we got to pause. Let's fast forward. Hopefully it goes quick. Speed up here a little bit. There we go. And yeah, so he is mostly focused on last hitting, right? And that's what I have said in a lot of replay reviews that I want you guys to really focus on is the number one priority you have in lane, especially solo lane when you don't have a teammate there to rely on for last hitting, is you need to focus on getting the creep kills first and then harassing your opponent. And yeah, so the second point he went is the 2 in Rain of Arrows. Let's see what he's rolling over here for a gank on this pocket and this paradox. Big damage on his 1 there. Gets the kill on the paradox. I'm just going to rotate back over here. I don't think he takes this jungle camp. I think it could be tempting to take the jungle camp there. But really, especially this early on, before probably 10 minutes, depending on where the creep wave is at, you want to be prioritizing the creep wave. And just generally speaking, you want to be prioritizing the lane minions over the jungle creeps, because the jungle creeps will always be there, right? Unless, let's say, your opponent takes them. But your teammate is generally going to have that farm. There's no guardians for it to die to. There's no other troopers for it to die to. So you always want to prioritize the lane minions for the farm. 7 does throw the ball in there, and if you look at how the 7 is positioning, I think it's very, very smart. Sometimes positioning behind the Guardian can not work that well against some heroes, because when the Guardian is attacking and his legs split, there's a hitbox there where you can still take harassment. But because Grey Talon is in the air and he's angled downward, the entire Guardian's body is basically blocking 7 right there so that Lystic cannot harass him. So I think that's really smart positioning by the 7 there. Lystic's taking a lot of damage here. Oh, Mirage teleported in. What? Lystic's going to ult in to help this Mirage out. And he's going to get the kill with the ult. Very nice, very nice. That was a really aggressive teleport from the Mirage there. I assume that got called in comms. Oh, man. 7 is not happy. And yeah, so he got the 2 in Rain of Arrows for the extra weapon damage, and then he's gotten the 1 point in his charge shot for that extra charge. And then we'll talk about the items here in a sec as well. Gets a pretty big 1 off on the 7 there. That Mirage teleport was pretty aggressive, and what I was going to say is I'm pretty sure that was called in comms. Usually the higher MMR games generally have good comms, and when Mirage is going to teleport in, he'll usually call it out or say, hey, do you want me to teleport? So I have to imagine that was calmed. Whoa, big kill on the 7 there. Haze is... Oh, dodged the sleep dagger. That was a really good air dodge right there. And gets the kill on the Haze. Wow. Man, he has 3 in his lane. Can he dodge this Warden? There's no way. He's holding Hex, right? Big wall jump there. See if he can get away. Yeah, there's no way. Oh, there's 2 of them. Man, he had 4 come for me. Got 2. That is really, really good value. Hopefully this team got something on the map, right? And yeah, so now we can talk about items here. So after he went his tier 1 items, he did buy Enchanter's Barrier. Obviously, that's going to give you some good spirit power and cooldown reduction. He just got Combat Barrier, which is going to give him damage and the fire rate. I think Grey Talon's pretty good at using shields because you're generally going to be pretty far away from the enemy. Obviously, you want to stay at range. And the only time that those buffs are active is when you do have your shield up. So because you're going to be further away, your shields are going to be up for longer and you're going to have those buffs. So I think Grey Talon is generally a good shield-based character. And then the other 2, Kinetic Dash. I think Kinetic Dash is just a pretty popular item on general weapon damage type characters. This will probably be a more hybrid-based build, but early on it's great for movement, gives you that extra health for some survivability. And then long range, which is pretty classic on Grey Talon. Like I said, Grey Talon's going to be sitting at range. Having long range is going to give you that buffed weapon damage because you're going to be sitting so far back. And yeah, so some more skill points here. He's got the 1 in his ultimate for the extra damage, the Guided Owl. And then he got the 2-pointer in charge shot for that extra damage as well. What is he doing? Is he trying to owl? I actually don't know what he's doing right now. He's going for buff. That's what he's going for. Okay. I was like... Oh, wow. Grey Talon just ulted in his... Or, sorry. Warden just ulted in Grey Talon's face. Yeah, that was pretty unfortunate. That's just kind of unfortunate positioning there. And if you generally watch high MMR games, buffs are very contested. And buffs, generally speaking, depending on the buff, is going to be equivalent to mostly a tier 2 item. So they're very, very powerful. And so if you can get them, obviously that is amazing. They spawn at, the first spawn is at 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And so if you can get that, you can use that to push Guardians. You can use that to get kills, get ganks. And that's really how you want to be using those buffs. So those are really, really contested in high MMR games. And a lot of the lower MMR games, I don't see a lot of people taking the buffs. They usually sit there for a while. So I really encourage you guys to prioritize buffs because they are very, very powerful. Damn, Guided Owl just does so much damage. I don't know if you saw that, but that was like probably a third or more of Pocket and Hayes' health right there. Going a little aggressive here. Some pretty good air dodges there. Dodge the kinetic carbine from Paradox. And he's going to have to go back here because he has pocket ulted at this point. And yeah, so a good call out here would be if you have a pocket on the enemy team or maybe an Infernus, debuff reducer would be a great buy there. That way you don't have the pocket ult on you as long. That way you don't have Infernus's afterburn on as long. So I think debuff reducer is really great against this team. 7 static charge as well. I believe it works on that. And just a few more items here as well. He got extra stamina. Extra stamina was great on Grey Talon now that he could do air dodges. And then Mystic Burst just for some bigger burst damage when he hits his 1. And then improved cooldown. Grey Talon is pretty reliant on his skills. So that's going to make them come up more often. And yeah, so we've pretty much comfortably transitioned to mid game here. Once 2 or 3 of the towers are 2 or 3 of the Guardians, not towers. Guardians are down. That's pretty much when the transition to mid game happens. You will see, depending on what character they're playing, obviously Lystic is staying pretty much in the side lane here. And that's mostly to protect the Guardian, but also because some characters are just more farm intensive than others. I think Grey Talon is one of those characters that depends a lot on farm. Infernus obviously as well, which is another reason Infernus likes to side lane. So you'll see those type of characters generally side lane more because it's going to be easier for them to farm safely because they don't have multiple gank angles, right? Once you're in the side lane, there's really only one way they can come from, which is basically from their base. Infernus is fighting over here. McGinnis ults. Doing a lot of damage to the McGinnis there. But Infernus does die. And yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to do anything over here. Oh, God. The Infernus is just not having a good game, I guess. He's sitting at 7K, and that's pretty far behind this team right now. So he's not having a good day right now. And yeah, so one more skill point here. He did get the 5-pointer in his charge shot for that improved damage scaling and quicker charge. And so, yeah, so you're going to be seeing basically them just rotate around the map farm right now. Obviously, they got the urn too. I don't know if you guys saw, but Yamato brought it into their base. They were pretty far behind in farm at that point. So, obviously, with the new urn location spawns, if you're, X percentage far behind, I think they bumped that up recently. This game has happened before the Grey Talon hotfix, I believe. So some of those hot fixes aren't in right now. I think Grey Talon's a pretty strong character. Probably A to S tier at this point. And yeah, so one more item here, Superior Stamina. Like I said, Grey Talon can do a lot of air dodging and stuff right now. So that's going to give you really great movement in the air to dodge things like, let's say, Seven throws a ball lightning at you. Haste throws a sleep dagger. We saw that sleep dagger dodge earlier in the game. That's going to be great to make sure that you're not sitting stationary in the air, which is going to make you a much easier target to hit. So buffs are up. It looks like Wraith just got that buff. Hayes will probably get the other buff as well. So a 1-to-1 buff usually means that you could probably fight them here. I imagine they're going to rotate here for this McGinnis. McGinnis looks like she's going to be pretty aggressive in pushing this Guardian. Maybe not. Smart by the McGinnis. So I think lower MMR McGinnis's would probably have just pushed the tower there, not thinking anything about it. But I imagine what the McGinnis said to themselves was, hey, I saw a bunch of Lystic's team in the middle left lane. They're not there anymore, and I was pushing this Guardian, so I'm going to stay hidden just for a little bit to see if they rotate over, which they did, because not only do they want to gank the McGinnis, but they also want to catch the wave, right? They want that farm. So that kind of saved McGinnis from that death there. So I think that was a really smart play. Good map awareness as well. One more item here for Lystic. We're just going to get rapid recharge. I think that makes obviously a lot of sense. You're maxing out charge shot first and having that rapid recharge on your charge shot. It's going to give you a lot more of them throughout the game.
The carry burn has been dropped.
Chilling in the air here. What was that noise? Do you guys know what that noise was? I know I have my game volume low. I don't know if you guys can hear that noise, but I'm not sure. There's like new noises in the game every once in a while when they do patches, right? And I'm always like, what the hell is that? Ooh, there's a big fight over the urn there. It looks like they got two kills. They did kill the McGinnis, so it was a 2-1 in favor of the enemy team, but probably not ideal. Pocket going really hard on Lystic. He is ulted, but Pocket did not do a lot of damage there. I think he missed the cold front because Lystic was in the air. He did get the ults on him, but just not enough damage from that Pocket, so he's going to have to back off or else he would have died from Lystic. They are an even farm too. I feel like Pocket had to miss skills there. Or maybe Pocket's nerfed to the point where his burst is not as lethal as it once was. Oh, big stun on the haze off the zip. Big, oh man, big damage on the Pocket there. Really, really good gank from Lystic there. So obviously, not obviously, I want to stop saying obviously because some of these things might not be obvious, right? So Pocket takes he takes extra damage from Spirit there, and that's one of the reasons I think you saw Lystic do so much damage to him. Obviously, Lystic has some pretty good items at this point. The one he's added so far has been Improved Spirit. So he's got some big damage on his charge shots right now. And yeah, we should just look at the state of the game here for a second to talk and think about these things. I think it's important for you guys to, every once in a while, especially as you're, like Lystic is doing here, just kind of like roaming around, farming boxes. You know, the game's not really taking that much mental capacity at that point. So one of the things you can do is look at the state of the game, right? So it's pretty even when it comes to farm between the teams, but you also need to look at where the farm is at. So if you look at where the enemy team's farm is at, it's mostly on 7, right? 7's a bit further ahead than all of his teammates. Warden's probably the weaker one on their team, so he's an easy one to pick off because he's lacking in farm. And then for Lystic's team, obviously him and Vindicta have a lot of farm right now, and Infernus is their weak link at this point. So it's just good to keep all those things in mind, right? Maybe you see Warden by himself. He might be an easy catch because he has lower farm, right? And then the enemy team could say to themselves, hey, I see that both Vindicta and Grey Talon are the ones getting the most farm on their team. And one of the great ways to deal with both Vindicta and Grey Talon is knockdown. So, hey, we should buy 2 to 3 knockdowns so that even if Vindicta or Grey Talon decide to buy something like Ethereal Shift to counter that, you can pop a knockdown, they'll pop their Ethereal Shift, and then you'll pop another knockdown on them, knock them out of the air. Generally speaking, Grey Talons and Vindictas are not going to be that tanky. They're not going to go a lot of green items, right? So if you can get them out of the air and your team can jump on them, usually you'll get the kill on them. Speaking of tanky items, though, Lystic has gone Metal Skin here. I think that will probably be helpful for him in some cases, although, you know, I guess one of the questions I have for you guys, I don't know the answer to this, but it's something interesting, is one of the ways that 7 deals a lot of damage, right, is with his 3. He's auto-attacking. So let me read Metal Skin here real quick while we watch Lystic farm boxes. Become immune to bullets and melee attacks. So I've never tested this, but I'd be interested to know if when Lystic pops Metal Skin, 7 has his 3 up, he's auto-attacking Lystic as Grey Talon. Does the 3 of 7 still do damage to Grey Talon because he has Metal Skin up and he's immune to bullets? I actually don't know the answer to that. I'd be curious to know. which is why I'm kind of like, you know, is Metal Skin a good item here? Obviously, Metal Skin's probably good against the Haze, good against the Warden. You know, McGinnis is probably auto-attacking as well. So maybe. So they're going to do mid-boss here. I think this is it's a fairly risky mid-boss, right? They don't really have any good ults to counter mid-boss. I can get that behind that. But 7 can pop static charge on himself and jump down there. They only have 2 dead. Okay, so they're not even going to contest it at all. Interesting. So that's a pretty free mid-boss on their part. Probably a good call because, like I said, the enemy team doesn't have some of those big ultimates that you would expect to kind of steal mid-boss with maybe like an Infernus ult or a Dynamo ult, or even Wraith when she has the 5-point in her ultimate where she can basically stun the entire enemy team with her ultimate. So it's a lot safer to do mid-boss in that case because the enemy team doesn't have any of those tools to really enable a really good steal. Even Ivy's Stone Form is really good at stealing mid-boss. So now what I imagine they'll do, so not obviously, catching myself. So the minions are more powerful now. They're going to be pushing the enemy base. So one of the things they want to do when they're grouped as mid-boss, or when they have mid-boss, is to group and push a lane. They can also do the Urn. I think in the past I've said that, hey, Urn is really not that important when you have mid-boss. But with all of the Urn changes since I've said that, obviously this game changes a lot within 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what's in the patches. But basically, I think Urn is probably worth it now to do, especially if it's an even Urn, which this one is. So you can see it's just on the midline there. So they don't have enough of a net worth lead at this point to trigger the Urn mechanic to where, hey, the Urn's going to spawn on the enemy side. I think it's worth it to do Urn at this point. I do think they just made a mistake here, although I think you could argue because they took a walker. So I believe they just took the right side, the offlane walker over here. 2 of them died for it, which is probably a good trade. Because they have Rejuvenator, their death timers are not going to be as long. If they didn't have Rejuvenator, I think trading 2 this late in the game for a mid-boss is probably not worth it. So he just got knocked down there. Warden slowing hexed him and binding word. He did get out of the binding word there. He does get in the air. Mirage is here to help. Big damage on the Paradox with the charge shot. So they do get the Paradox kill. They turn around that gank. Oh, so that was really, really good. Firing the guarded owl. Where is he going? I'm not sure why he fired that guided owl. Interesting. Maybe the McGinnis was low. But anyway, so really good play by Lystic's team there. So Lystic was able to dodge the gank, but they were still on him, both Paradox and Warden. And his team rotated to him while he was getting ganked, and they were able to turn that around into 2 kills to none. So that was really, really good. And that's just part of being map aware, knowing what's happening, right? Making sure you're paying attention to what's happening on the map, seeing your teammate get ganked. Mirage, I believe, teleported in there as well, so... McGinnis ulting to clear the wave to try to protect the walker, I imagine. Pocket going in on him pretty hard. It's going to be really hard for Pocket to get to him, though, without something like a knockdown. So they're just going to back off here. Rejuvenator has expired at this point. So they're probably going to want to be cautious. They do have a pretty sizable lead. They do have the bottom left lane getting pushed. Wraith is going to pick that up. And they do have some jungle camps to farm as well, so that's always something to keep in mind, right? You don't necessarily always have to be pushing the enemy's base. If you have things to do on your side of the map, that is totally viable, especially once Rejuvenator's expired, and it can be much more risky to push to their side of the map because, some of the characters that the enemy team has right now are really hard to push into if you think about it. Paradox with the swap, if they get to swap on you, you're pretty much dead. McGinnis's ultimate makes it very, very hard to push onto her. So just being overly cautious here. It looks like someone did get picked. Mirage did get picked there. Looks like Mirage is having a bad day now too. Him and Infernus are on pretty low farm. Although they have caught up. Looks like Warden is probably the only one with pretty low farm at this point. Lystic does get knockdown triggered on him. He is up on this ledge though, using the high ground to his advantage. Not committing too hard to the fight because you are Grey Talon. You are pretty squishy.
I see Warden. I see that spoiled brat.
Ooh. Charge shot into the wall there, trying to go for this pocket, and he does get the kill though. So let's talk about skill build here real quick. I'm pretty sure he went all the way up into number 2, getting his 5-pointer there, and then he went all the way up into ultimate as well. I guess he was probably going for the Warden with that L, I have to say. I'm not sure about that L. And then some more items here. So he did get Spiritual Overflow. I think Spiritual Overflow is just a generally popular item with the more hybrid characters like a Grey Talon. Even Mirage, I've seen it on at this point. I think some Wardens will go Spiritual Overflow. I think Spiritual Overflow is just generally a strong item right now. And then he did upgrade his High Velocity Mag into a Pristine Emblem as well. So keeping these lanes pushed out, this is kind of the awkward stage in the game right now. And I know I talked about this a little bit in my last video as well. And I appreciate some of you guys' comments about it. But there's this stage in the game you kind of reach where mid-boss isn't up. Yes, you have a lead, but it's still a bit hard to push into the enemy's base. So you're at this weird stage, right, where you're just basically pushing each other's lanes, looking for a pick. And in higher MMR lobbies, people know that that's the state of the game, so they're not going to push that deep into the enemy's territory. So what ends up happening is you have these kind of stalled out games because people are just pushing waves, basically waiting for mid-boss to come up, holding the urn like this. So we're kind of at that state of the game right now, right, where we're just kind of like waiting for someone to get picked at this point. And I think Paradox did try to ult there. Let me look. No, Paradox did not ult there. So 7 does get a static charge on Lystic here. He's taking a lot of damage. Oh, really great charge shot. Really great charge shot on the 7. Using an extra stamina 2 to dodge there. Speaking of mid-boss, so only 7 is dead here. I think this could be a little bit of a force. Lystic is low health. It looks like they are fighting, though. Mirage did teleport to the Wraith. Looks like they're trying to fight here. Gets the kill on the Warden here. I think the Warden pretty much overextended there. They look like they were fighting, and then Warden kind of went from this off angle, but he got caught out by their team there. So they do have 2 dead here, the enemy team. Pocket's pretty low. I don't know that they know that. They might have calmed that. So I think this mid-boss will generally be pretty safe. They also see Paradox on the map, and they just saw McGinnis as well. So this is probably a free mid-boss at this point. And yeah, so the enemy team doesn't really have any super solid way to contest that mid-boss, especially when they're down players. Let's see, one more item here, Sharpshooter. So he just upgraded his long range into a Sharpshooter. Grey Talon, one of the snipers in the game. Sharpshooter's a great item on him. And then, yeah, for skill build, so he had gone all the way up in Rain of Arrows, and then he went all the way up in Guided Owl, and now he's just going to go all the way up in Immobilizing Trap. They are going to run the urn here. I think this is a pretty safe urn play. They do see a lot of the enemy team on the map here protecting the walker. Infernus probably, I don't know if he might have gotten swapped. Paradox's ultimate is down, so that could have been a swap, but he looked pretty deep there. He looked like he was underneath the walker almost. Sometimes the minimap can be a little bit weird though, right? Because the portraits are all like, you know, going crazy around each other because everyone's on top of each other. Taking some damage from the haze there. Looks like he is going to go help this Wraith. The Wraith did get the 7 ult onto 7, and they did get the kill on 7. Ooh, missed his charge shot there. Gonna try to Guided Owl the haze, I imagine. Something happened there. Actually don't know what happened there. Did he see someone and detonate it? I think I missed that. Maybe that was a mistake. What is he doing over here? Talking to stream, maybe? Oh, maybe he heard the Warden. Okay. There's a Warden right there. That makes sense. He probably heard the Warden, which is why he was over there. Man. Ult Warden build is so crazy. Even with the Majestic Leap nerfs. He is old build. Yeah, he is old build. So I'm pretty sure Warden got 2 kills there, and he's on pretty low farm. Like, he's only 25k. The Wraith is at 36k. Vindictus at 39k. So, like, if you go old Warden build and you're down, you can still be very, very useful. So, yeah, so Lystic just picked up Unstoppable here, and I imagine the thought process behind this Unstoppable is, hey, they have knockdown for me, right? Let's see how many knockdowns they have. 1, 2... They have 2 knockdowns. So he's pretty much guaranteed to get knocked down at least once during a fight. So being able to have that Unstoppable to prevent that knockdown is going to be really, really big to, you know, increase his survivability, make sure they can't get on top of him. Obviously, you have stuff like 7 stun too that can prevent. So I imagine that's the thought process behind buying Unstoppable at this point in the game. Does get the trap on Paradox there. Did he pop his Unstoppable? He did not. He probably should have popped his Unstoppable there. So if you saw, Paradox did get the knockdown on him, and then he got the swap as well. Lystic hadn't popped his Unstoppable. I think that was probably a misplay there. If he had popped his Unstoppable, he might have been able to get that kill. Although, it's kind of hard to kill Paradox through the wall, right? Some of these Paradox builds are pretty insane, too, where you'll have, like, 3 walls up at the same time, and Paradox is, like, dancing around them, and you're trying to shoot him, and you just can't, and it's... There's some trauma there. Trauma on my part. So Yamato does get picked here. They're about to get the urn as well. They're still down, you know, about 20k here. So Lystic's team does still have the advantage, but once again, we're in this state of the game where we're just pushing each other's lanes. We're farming our side of the map, looking for a pick if possible, but like I said, in higher MMR lobbies, players know that that's the case, and they're a lot more disciplined in their positioning. That doesn't mean they're perfect. And, you know, I know that people are like, oh, is this Infernus gameplay? It is Infernus, or sorry, not Infernus gameplay, Eternus gameplay. Like, even Eternus players make mistakes, right? So you'll see people get picked, and that could change things, right? If someone gets picked, like this Wraith is pretty far up here. She does have Blink, which is why, you know, Wraith's a pretty safe side laner. But she is pretty far up, and she could get picked there. And it's just always important to keep in mind the enemy team comp throughout the game. Like, how could I possibly get picked, right? Like, Warden could just, you know, come in on me, Majestic Leap, Binding Word me, Slowing Hex and kill me. Paradox could swap me. Haze could come out of nowhere with a Sleep Dagger. 7 is probably like a Corvette at this point with all his spirit items and his Bound the Spirit just zipping all over the map, right? So just trying to keep in mind about what could happen. So he pops his Unstoppable there. So he does dodge the knockdown there and gets the kill on Haze. Really, really good play there. So I think you just saw the purpose of Unstoppable there. He stopped himself from getting knocked down. They get the kill on Paradox. Pockets going in here. He does get static charged by the 7. I think, okay, it kind of looked like the metal skin did work on the 7 there. Because I feel like Lystic would have died without the metal skin there. Gonna try the guided out of the 7, it looks like. 7's already dead though, so he's probably gonna take it back over here to this other fight. And yeah, so that time it just expired from time because he was gonna go for the 7, but the 7 died. And this might just be game at this point. They got some pretty long death timers. Pockets on 60 seconds. Warden's on 60 seconds. 7's on 45 seconds. So they should be able to at least get the Patron knockdown here. And that is something to keep in mind too, is when the enemy team's going to get back up when you're pushing the base. So mid-boss is up here. So one of the options they have is to down the Patron and then go to mid-boss and take mid-boss. Or if they think they can push for the win. It looks like they're probably not pushing for the win. So some of them are still in the base, but it looks like they are going to go for the mid-boss here. I think that's the safer play in general. If you know, hey, we're not going to be able to finish the game off before, let's say, 3 or 4 of them spawn. Hey, let's go take mid-boss, be safe, get the Rejuvenator so our death timers aren't as long, and then push back into the enemy base. Because obviously, not obviously, because with mid boss, you're going to have your waves naturally pushing, so you're going to be able to get into their base a lot quicker. So it looks like Wraith does get picked here. They're pretty disjointed. I'm not sure what's going on here. Probably some miscommunication here, people not knowing what's going on. They do get it. He didn't pop his unstoppable there. He looks like he's probably going to go for the 7 with the owl. I think he sees the 7. Nice, and he gets the kill with the guided owl there, so that's really, really big. 7 is basically their raid boss at this point. So without 7, they could probably push into the base here and win. And yeah, so some more items he got here. Improved Burst and Surge of Power. Surge of Power, I believe, is on his charge shot. But this looks like it'll probably be game at this point. Did pop his Unstoppable there to dodge the knockdown. And yeah, so GG, I think this is a really good example of a Grey Talon game. Gonna get the kill on the haste there as well. So GG all around. If you've all made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you want more of this type of content. One of the things I've heard you guys asking for now for a little bit is viewer VOD reviews. So my goal with this would be to take some lower ranked VODs and replays. Usually most of my replay reviews are just, Eternus ranked games at this point. Review some lower ranked games and, focus on teaching, focus on improving. Hey, I see you doing this. I think you could do this differently to improve, buy timings, mid game. How are you playing mid game? All of that good stuff. So if you guys are interested in that type of content, please let me know in the comments so that I can start doing those type of VOD reviews in addition to these Eternus VOD reviews. Once again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.